Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads, construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
That's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It's a good evening, and I want to suppose that each one of you watching us is having a good time. My name is Tumuhimbise. Every Friday at 5 p.m. we have such a show where we have big wings in governance, opinion leaders, politics, to mention but a few, and that is Face the Nation. The reason for which our team leaders out there mentioned that, rather considered the show to be Face the Nation, is that is that such big men share with the world any answers that the world seeks to hear from them. Today, we have a renowned veteran politician, Honorable Mabikke. By the time of my age, back in the day, or slightly even younger, he was already in things as a parliamentarian for Mabikke East. I don't want to say that he lost miserably later alone, and the reason for which he lost, but then he would share with the world. Apparently, he's in DF, called Democratic Front. Everywhere he goes, he doesn't drop with a letter D. He will also tell the public why. Honorable Mabikke, say hello to our viewers, sir.
No, man, thank you for reaching out and arranging this a very important interview. I want to greet our viewers and all our listeners, wherever you are. How are you? And thank you for everything that you are doing. I cannot stop, of course, thanking our members of DF, our supporters of DF, our sponsors of DF for the tremendous job so far you have done to ensure that we move forward. We move past the turmoils, the confusion, the chaos of the past, and now to be able to steadily move forward as we are doing now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's Honorable Mabikke. Now, a quick one. I do not know whether you know, but in case you don't, I will let you know. People out there, some, not all, consider you as political nomads. They have given examples because if someone asks, Museveni was wrong, for instance, okay, was bad. Honorable Mao was bad. You worked with Mbabazi, he was bad. Dr. Besigye was bad. Bob Wine was bad. Why are you political nomads?
Interesting. No. One, we have permanent objectives. And politics is not about individuals. You work with individuals. But at the same time, you work with them when you have permanent objectives. Now, we have never worked with President Museveni. We have, yes, worked with Mao. He had these issues. We have worked with current Dr. Besigye.
Babazi.
We are still moving. We have worked with Mr. Mbabazi, yes. But you realize that most of the people with whom we depart actually are the ones who move away from us.
You're the ones who move away.
They move away. Now, like Mr. Mbabazi, we had an agenda. Go forward agenda. We moved the agenda.
He did move
At the
forward.
end of the agenda, he did not move forward. He
was stagnant.
He actually moved backward.
So you were the ones who moved forward.
Now, we worked with Norbert Mao. It was about bring about change in Uganda. It was about to bring about progressive leadership in Uganda. Now, he instead partnered with a gentleman with whom we thought.
You left him before he could join the gentleman.
Yes, it is because he had already had a deal. We realized that they had a deal. And we said, no, now Mr. Mao cannot move us forward, we must move forward. Now, we did not leave Mr. Bobby Wine. Mr. Bobby Wine left us.
But, Honorable, when you talk about the deal, do you know, and in case you don't, allow me tell you this. Also, when you talk of deals, they also think that you and your colleagues, by the way, they are like a clique of top four, where there is Honorable Mabikke, closer just a few meters, you'll find Mukaku. If you search very wisely, you'll find Honorable Matthias Mpuga. They also equally say you're also part of the dealers.
No, that is a subverted view. In fact, that is diversionary. We have remained constant. We have remained consistent on the direction this country must take. We have remained constant and very, very committed to our declared policy and public agenda.
What do you call consistency?
We have never diverted from that.
Honorable.
It is the people who we work with actually who divert from the set object, from the set agenda, and from the set direction.
Honorable, if we were an observer out there, would you consider a person who leaves DP, forms another party, moves later to Honorable Amma Mbabazi, later to NOP, later DF, would you consider that person as being consistent?
Extremely. Why? When you are seeking power, you don't seek it in the same manner. Someone seeking to be a mere member of parliament or a mere councillor or a mere mayor. The power play and power game is completely different. And that is why you realize that those people who eventually capture power do so through various mediums. I want to give you an example. A man called Ruto. You know him very well. He's now the president of Kenya. He began as a KANU youth winger. He later moved to about 3, 4, 5 other political vehicles before he formed these, Kenya Kwanza. And previously, you know, that he was with Jubilee. Earlier, he had been with some other UDA or something, you know. And at the end of the day, he took government in completely different medium. I want to give you Uhuru Kenyatta himself. Uhuru Kenyatta is the son of a founding Kenya president. He belonged to KANU. He left KANU, he went to PNU. He left PNU, he went to Jubilee. He left Jubilee, he went to Umoja.
Is it a good
La Umoja.
Do you consider?
You need to get this very clearly. Now, I bring you back to Uganda. How did Museveni finally capture power? Did he capture it through one medium?
UPM,
no.
Fronasa.
He began in DP. He went to UPC. He formed Fronasa. He left Fronasa, he formed the UPM.
Then PRA.
Then he formed the PRA. Then with PRA he formed NRM. And then even finally, as we speak now, he has changed from NRM to NRMO.
But you see,
so that
you are learning from bad examples. Because if you want to learn from Museveni, it means you are likely to do the same things he's doing now.
Unlike Europe has got largely two ideological blocks. In Africa, every other time, people form ideological vehicles to achieve a certain goal. It is very much unlike Europe. The kind of political setting in Uganda is very much unlike Europe. So, it is only the less informed people who will tell you that why have you kept changing vehicles. I want to give you an example of Besigye. Mr. Besigye, I think, began in UPM. He was a UPM sympathizer.
Yeah.
He left UPM, he joined NRM. He left NRM.
FDC.
He joined
Reform Agenda.
Reform Agenda. He formed Reform Agenda. He left Reform Agenda, he formed what? FDC. He left FDC, he formed what? PFT.
Which we are also a party.
Yes.
I think you are justifying why I political nomad.
And he left PFT and formed what?
Apparently.
He is now in PFF. Now, the power play is much different from the ordinary, simple politics of parliament, politics of mayorship, politics of councillorship. It's much more complicated. Therefore, it is wrong for anybody to say that we are nomads. We have remained consistent to our goal. The goal is finally taking charge of government.
You see, Honorable.
And that one we shall.
As an advocate, I know you know the interpretations of a word a nomad, but also the characteristics of a nomad. You'll move for greener pasture. Like, literally, you are on the road, you're always on the run.
Sadly,
you're always on the
sadly, no man. I never moved from where I am to a greener pasture. Because if I was to move from a greener pasture, I would now be a minister, comfortable in NRM. But actually, I've been told that why do you move from? I'm accused of moving from opposition to opposition. There is no greener pasture in opposition.
This is the point, Honorable. You move from opposition to oppose the current opposition.
No. Because to redirect. I moved from opposition, one side of opposition, to another side to redirect events. Because
some people out there have put it onto you that you yourself, Honorable Matthias Mpuga, and of course the three, actually the trio, and of course Henry Lubowa. In fact, four of you, that you want to make this country hold this opposition at ransom. It must be you. Therefore, you are jealous, you are envious, with exaggerated sense of importance. So it must be you. How would you feel how does it make you feel when you move out there and people think like, again, there must be Mabikke anyway, it must be Mukaku.
It can never be us.
Because it is you.
That is absolutely wrong.
It is you. Against Snoop now, all your guns, you'll say against Snoop. You are envious about
politics. How can I be envious of what? How can I be envious of somebody who doesn't have power?
Honorable.
How? No.
How hard was it?
No man. How can I be envious of somebody who has no power?
Because you have left him
Actually,
and spoken ill against the arrangement.
No, you must justify. When you are part of an organization and you leave it, people have got to ask you, why are you leaving?
Yes, why did you leave?
So in the process of explaining, you must give reasons why. For instance,
does the public know the reasons why you left Nope?
Do you agree yourself that Nope is on the right track? Do you agree yourself that Mr. Chagwan is on the right track? Do you agree that the original people power object that we set ourselves to achieve, are still on the track.
You know
Do
better.
you?
You know better.
Do
Honorable,
you? Because
I did not.
you are a journalist
I
yourself.
did not read their agenda,
Okay.
and you knew it.
Now
best.
I can
In fact,
tell
you were
you.
the one- you
Now
were
I
one of
can
the
tell you
people
because I
voting.
was part of that agenda that we lost track. We advised because the first thing when as colleagues you lose track, you sit internally and say, look, guys, we seem to be moving off track.
Yeah.
But even however consistent and persistent you give in advice, that advice lands on hard rock. So you cannot continue wasting time. And whoever is still involved in that project is just wasting time. You can never achieve using that medium. And that is why we jumped and try to focus on this medium. But we say, if you still believe in that line, please proceed. We no longer. We have now taken on a different path all together. And you never stop people from criticizing. For instance, in Masaka, when we were launching the DF, yes, there were certain speeches that really criticized, no, but you couldn't stop them. But for me, I only focus on the speech of the president. It was the most important speech. Because even the delegates conference of the DF directed that we link with all forces of change to try and find an arrangement on how we can now resolve the following. One, resolve the issue of political prisoners, including Dr. Kizza Besigye. Two, resolve the issue of safety of voters and the candidates at the next election. How you can remove the military and security agencies from elections, and how you can actually also get one register. Now, there is no single political organization or single individual who can do this job. That job will be done. It will be the work of the collective, and there's no way we can avoid working with the rest to ensure that we bring about the change that the people of Uganda want.
You see, I think you allow me address you by so many titles. And now, on this particular question, I'll address you as a counsel. You are already sounding inconsistent, Honorable. You are not truthful to yourself when you say it's your desire to have the rest of the players. But remember, most of the players for which you wish to have on a table are the same players that are still healing their wounds in the courts caused by your exodus. So how do you expect Mabikke, Mao, Bobby Wine? Are you honest and serious onto this?
Extremely. Now let me tell you this. And this is where Ugandan politicians differ from the Kenyan politicians.
Because you're Ugandan, not Kenyans.
Ugandan, one of the biggest problems of opposition politicians is that they do lack political maturity.
Because
when I get differences with you,
irreconcilable, okay, because you
these
failed.
Are not irreconcilable. No man
you
listen
failed.
to this.
While at NUP you failed to reconcile the differences.
No,
how do you expect
to
reconcile the same differences that you wouldn't?
Nope, or whatever differences we have are far smaller than the bigger picture. They are far
can't be small when
limited and smaller.
They can't be small, Honorable, when they forced your exodus. They can't be small. They are big.
Yes, but a difference.
By the time you leave a home which is burning,
you don't have to be in the same political organization crusade for change. I can tell you that in our case to bring about change in Uganda, we are okay with playing using different fronts. No one can ever be conscripted because democracy we have means multipartyism, means pluralism. Now, you can never be tied to one single political organization. That all of you now who are crusading to bring to achieve this now must be in on one front. No, and if we differ, we leave your front and form another front, but remain consistent to the objective. That should not really be a problem. Now, let me tell you this. In Kenya in 2004, Ruto and Ruto and Kenyatta were on different sides. Actually, Kenyatta was on the side of Kibaki,
Yeah.
and Ruto was on the side of Odinga.
Odinga, rather.
2,000 people lost their lives. Do you remember that?
The ODM.
Within 4 years, Ruto and Uhuru were on the same ticket. Meaning that the differences between us are far smaller than the bigger agenda of actually taking control of government and taking charge of. Now, Ugandan politicians take some of these issues personal because they are politically immature. They take personal, they are trivial, they are petty. But we think that these petty differences cannot stop us from pursuing the bigger goal, the bigger agenda. And that is why the Right Honorable Mpuga, during our launch, said, nothing will stop me from talking to everybody, including those with whom I have had differences. All with those with whom all of us have had differences. As long as it is a national agenda, an agenda for transition, an agenda for reform, an agenda for reconciliation, an agenda for unity, agenda for dialogue, agenda for economic transformation. So, let our friends style up. We all cannot belong to the same party. We all cannot belong to the same front. But we can remain on different fronts as long as we are shooting the same goal. The same goal is about bring about the change that the people of Uganda so much desire.
If I may ask you on behalf of our viewers, do you believe in an election under this circumstance?
There's no other way. Elections in Uganda, especially presidential elections, have become a ritual.
So why do you want to participate in such an election?
Because there are no better options.
So in your script, everything is ticked. Nothing has worked.
Now,
nothing can work. You have considered an election.
I am part of
that is predetermined.
I have been part of the school of thought which says that however bad an election is, you can still use it to advance your agenda. You can because a presidential election all over the world is the most electrifying moment. Be it in America, the election of the Prime Minister of Britain is the most electrifying political event in UK and everywhere else. Now, that can be an opportunity for you, to pass on the message. That can be an opportunity for you to organize.
For how long?
That can even be an opportunity for you to bring about change. Let me give you an example. Odinga has used a presidential election, however unfair, to tilt turntables. That is one. In Gambia, a country called Gambia, Yahya Jammeh was removed after his own very process. I'll take you to a country called Burkina Faso. A man called Compaoré was actually removed in a process of organizing an election near home here in Egypt, a country with whom we share the Nile.
Mubarak.
You remember that Mubarak was removed in the process of organizing an election.
But you see, where we differ.
Come down to Sudan.
Where we differ.
Come down to Sudan. A man called General Bashir.
The level of organization. Their level of organization vis-a-vis yours is lacking. Yours is too primary. Because, Honorable, unless you mean to say that you are not good teachers because you say there is room for preaching the message, or the students you are teaching are dumb, because literally you cannot tell me 2001 you were here, 2006 you were here, 2011 you were here, 2016 you were here, until getting tired, until getting that fatigue that you are preaching the same gospel to the unchanging, and there is no, by the way, there is no symbol, any symptom of ever changing, and you still want to come into an election that is predetermined, and at heart you know, unless you mean to say you are positioning yourselves for Museveni's political fishing net, to fish you like they fished Mao, they fished so many, and maybe also become minister and your colleagues.
But no, man, I am on record to be saying that we cannot continue using the same tactics. We have been part of formations which use the same tactics,
the same people,
over and over. We have been part of those
the
formations.
same brains.
But don't you forget that internally we always have discussions. And internally we always have divergences on strategy. Certain times we differ and we actually move from one front to another over disagreements on strategy. I will remember that we had a front called PFT, and that front we participated.
Which you produced and killed.
And left it. Why? Because of differences in strategy.
You produced it and killed it.
We left NUP because NUP was using the same strategies that Samogere used in 1996. Actually, worse, below even the tactics of Mabikke. They are taking us back to 1996. Those strategies which
I hope not take that to 1980.
Which do not actually even 1980.
You might. No, I mean, you yourself with the DF, you might end up taking that to 1970s and 80s.
You have been accusing us of moving from front to front.
Yeah, sure.
But one of the reasons why we actually differ is on strategy and direction. Now, I can tell you that we are advocating for a new dimension in strategy. We are advocating for new methods of work. We are advocating now for new ways of doing things. We cannot be using the 1980 tactics that Samogere used, 1996 tactics that he again used, employed, the 201, 206, 2011 tactics of Mabikke. There is no change.
Are you honest when you say you are applying new tactics when you have less than 6 months to hit the road?
Number one, let me just give you one thing.
Unless you tell us
mobilization,
2031.
Mobilization here alone, here at the DF alone. The way we are recruiting, the way we are organizing the ground is much different. For instance, now, we are saying that every 100 members, wherever they are, should form a branch. And these branches are, of course, also resistance branches. Every 100 members,
are they manageable?
Wherever they are.
That's practical.
Yes,
remember, I know, Honorable, you know about Dr. Bessege's Power 10. And you know the consequences it brought on board. It wasn't practical, neither was it even manageable administratively. How dare you saying you have asked people, so as long as there are 100, who is managing those 100?
No, once there are 100 people they form themselves into a chairman, they elect a chairman, they elect a deputy chairman, they elect a secretary, they elect a publicist and a mobilizer. Just 5 offices. Those are the leaders of those 100 people, wherever they are based, anywhere in the country. Be it lawyers, be it engineers, be it market workers, be it border people, anywhere in Uganda. That's a different strategy and different way of mobilizing. Now, let me tell you, Norman, on the national register, there are between 6 to 8 million voters who never come out to vote. Why?
I should be asking you the question because you're the one who mobilizes them.
Because
your message is wrong. Because your message
our
is wrong.
Messaging,
20 years down the road,
you are right.
Is wrong.
You are right.
And you're coming back to preach the same message.
No, and I'm coming to you, and I'm coming to that message. Because we have changed the message. That's one of the strategies. We have changed the message. We have done really that. We have changed the message. Now, the 8 million voters do not vote. Why? Because of the wrong messaging and because of the conviction that you cannot do much.
Even the timing when you at which you bring the message. For instance, DF has less than 4 months. Which message? It's a new message. It's a new message. A new party.
A message can spread.
Same faces.
A message can spread in 1 month. A message can spread in 21 days. Actually, depending on how strong and heavy that message is. Let me tell you this. We had expected that at the last election, our friend Bobi Wine would at least attract about 4 million of that. If we attracted 4 million of those voters, we would be able to overwhelm the NRM. It was not so. Do you know how many voters he attracted?
In comparison to Dr. Bessege's previous numbers, I think I have read, around, I heard of 1.5 or 165,000.
165,000.
But you had him.
Now.
So you cannot say Bob Wine is wrong alone.
Because he diverted.
You are part of Bob Wine's failure.
No, he diverted. We are not. He diverted from our original plan.
Unless you say.
And that is why, by the way, you know that by the time we got elections, we were already out of NUP.
Maybe if that's what you could.
We were already out of NUP. You remember that? He had even actually given many other people cards, tickets, not us. Now, because he diverted, he was not able to stick to the plan. The plan was to attract the 4 million voters. He was unable. Now, these are all innovations that we are trying to do. How do you bring up a message that can now be able to get those fellows out to vote. About 8 million, even if you get 4 million out of those. Secondly, how do you now, how do you get fear out of these people? How do you neutralize violence? How do you neutralize this militarism? These are the answers that we are trying now, and solutions we are trying to now to develop. And I am sure that come the next period, we should be rolling out very, very different strategies. Just like we did in Masaka. Many people never expected what they saw, including you. I am sure that you did not expect what you saw.
Just like I haven't believed what I saw.
It is because, no man.
Because
like many of you want us to do.
it's the same thing you're
We
doing.
are working on the ground. We are doing a lot of work. We are offering solutions to the challenges that have bedeviled us in the past.
If I may ask Honorable Mabikke, I want to, at sometimes I subscribe to people who saying and think that there is a problem with you, yourself first of all, but also with you as a collective, as Baganda. When you look at the history of Honorable Beni Chiwanuka, was literally fought by you guys, the Baganda again, and brought Obote. When you look at, I mean, there are so many examples. When you look at Honorable Chagulanyi, literally, no doubt, is being fought by, of course, that clique of you, Baganda again, fighting their own. When you look at Mao, Baganda connived, according to his words, to fight him. You now go ahead and launch DF in Masaka, the stronghold of Buganda, literally led by Muganda, having three also key top leaders, Baganda. What's your problem as Baganda?
No, that is a wrong perception, Norman.
It's a fact. Wait a second. You have Honorable Mpuga, you have Honorable Mabikke, you have Honorable...
I will come to that. I will come to that,
Mukaku,
brother.
you have Henry Lubowa. Isn't that the Tumuhimbise of this world? We should also be there. And Odong and something.
Let me start with that first of all. Now, let me tell you one thing about DF. DF.
Why are you launching Masaka?
DF, first of all, has got we would have, first of all, have launched anywhere. Because you remember that previously...
You had no numbers in Gulu. Could you have even dared launching your DF
2 weeks before we launched, you remember that we went and opened an office in Soroti. You will, if you have footage, you realize we had the
reasonable number,
a big number.
Voters or simply cheerleaders?
Both.
Because it's also possible.
How do you differentiate between a voter and a cheerleader?
You have seen it from...
you want them first flash?
Yeah, sure, proof. Because you see, Honorable, we have had people say...
That's the wrong person.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second, Honorable. We have had situations where people say, no, these guys just come kulaba Bob Wininga or Muyimbi. People could be like, we need to see also a Mabikke who left it.
I never subscribed.
And they simply bring the numbers.
That's number one. So we would have launched the party in Soroti. We would have launched the party in Iganga. We would have launched the party in Gulu. We also have support there. But we went to a place which was most prepared. We went to a branch which was most prepared. And indeed, they were right. They said, no, don't go anywhere else. Have come here. We have been prepared for long. We are here to host you. The people of Masaka have Matoke. Look, how could we have fed all that huge number? Do you know how many bunches of Matoke the people of Masaka donated so that we can be able to feed that?
You could have gotten a Carlo from Eastern Uganda or even Northern Uganda.
There was no other reason apart from the fact that the people, the DF members of Masaka were the most prepared. That is one. Two, we have a new innovation inside the DF. For a long time, Uganda has ignored the issue of quota, which is practiced in America, it's practiced all over the world. In a quota system, the higher the number, the bigger the service. For instance, given Uganda's 12 million population, that makes 25% of Uganda's population. And therefore, with that, in DF, Buganda has been allocated 25% of the offices on the National Executive Committee. So
that's why you gave yourself
the Basoga. Listen, the Basoga,
the leading four.
The Basoga are about I think 13 or 12%. They have been allocated on the National Executive Committee 12% of the total position. Why? We encourage, even at the national level, the issue of quota system. Now, it is not my problem that the quota allocated to the Karamojong has not been filled. It is there.
Because they are few.
They should rush as quickly as possible to fill their 7% quota or 0.08% quota. And that is even how we want to govern.
So in
government.
short,
in
those
other
that
words,
don't even matter may end up not benefiting from your government. Because if we were conjo,
no,
okay,
that's now that
if we were to have, I don't know how many people, what will happen?
There is now what we call at the end of the day equalization.
That's a contradiction again.
When the majorities have taken their portions
and suffocate these less known.
The minority can always be equalized. Now, let me tell you one thing. We have had a problem in Uganda of minority leading
the
majority. And that becomes a very big problem. And actually, minority allocating resources to the minority, to the majority. You will know for sure, even if we went to the numbers in parliament, where a place like Ankole, which has far less population, has got far more members of parliament than many other regions which have a bigger population. We need to redress that. We are starting in DF to redress that. We are saying that if this DF, more support is in a region, that region must have proportional representation. And what's wrong with that? Now, our leader is called Matthias Mpuga, who's the vice president. Our vice president is called Pascal Amoria.
You wait, Honorable.
I don't
want to use the Luganda word of Ontwara speed. You say Honorable Mpuga, who is a Muganda.
Yes.
You say yourself. Put yourself there.
No, but who's the vice president? I'm not the vice president.
It is one thing. You see, I know.
Look,
you are talking to someone who is equated with the politics. Do you know you can have a vice president and who is non-functional? Wait a second. Would you consider Jessica Alupo a vice president? At heart.
Oh, she is.
At heart. No, leave alone the politics. At heart.
She is.
At heart, would you consider her? As you facing the camera, would you consider leave alone the constitution at heart?
Practically,
can she make any reshuffle or any directive?
That's not her
in
power.
Her capacity. No.
She can never act. She can never act in the presence of a president.
What I'm asking,
but she can act in the absence of a president.
See,
you know that.
You are trying to
a vice president. No, listen.
You are trying to be dishonest to our viewers. Do you think, in your view, that Jessica Alupo has the powers as any other vice president in other countries?
If you are doubting Alupo's powers, wait for the day Museveni will be hospitalized, or wait for the day Museveni is called when he's president. That's when you know the power of the vice president.
Why I'm saying this is that it is also likely that you can have a vice president to Honorable Mpuga when you're actually the vice president.
No, actually, for our own setting, the presidency has got five
deputies.
Persons. The president, the vice president Northern Uganda, the vice president Buganda, the vice president Eastern Uganda, the vice president Western Uganda. So that is the presidency. Very, very powerful institution in our and those are our top leaders.
The future will judge you.
Now, down below the presidency is a party chairman and 4 other deputies. And now the Secretary General comes next and others follow. No, and I can tell you that the key positions in our own party have been evenly and equitably distributed. Now, going back to Benito Chiwanuka.
The Baganda question.
Benito Chiwanuka won. You remember?
Yeah, he did.
He won.
But leave alone.
Even, let me tell you one thing. Even in the repeat election, Benito Chiwanuka had more numbers than UPC and KY.
But
you
made an alliance in Kabaka Yeka with Obote, and before you know it, the gentleman was kicked off. And remember the same thing.
How do you stop people from making an alliance to capture power? Because
fighting their own.
The day, even us right now, we are clamoring to make alliances with other change-seeking forces to take charge of government. How do you stop anybody who has numbers, who was significant, who is significantly placed to ally with anybody of their choice to take charge of government? I think the KY during that time was very much interested in remaining in control, and despite the fact that it had scored less than DP nationally, and despite the fact that it had also scored less than,
so they were desperate to
it had a lot of power. It had a lot of power to tilt the balance, and they decided to tilt the balance with Milton Obote, who at that time was aligned with their object.
Let's talk about your delegates conference, which to many also it is questionable. They doubt whether what we saw on media is what was on the ground, or you ferried the people by phone calls. Where are you? There's some bus out there. Can you please jump on Twitter and come to Masaka? How did you reach onto those numbers at the delegates conference? Were they real numbers or quack
You see,
numbers?
No man, you are one of the people who are very scared and who are trying to subvert.
I'm not in power. How do I be scared of you?
Very successful delegates conference. One of the your noob. I don't know.
Who's the noob? Excuse me.
Not yours. Not yours. But
yeah, but they are noob. Please,
they are
yeah,
noob.
clear the air. They are noob. Yeah, sure, but not me. I have no interest in.
Had 120 members in their delegates. Their delegates conference began at 6:30 in the morning and ended at 7:20.
Maybe it was of substance. You don't need Tom, Dick, and Harry. You have a few, but of substance. 124 people.
Without even knowing what the procedure under which delegates came. Now, let me first tell you.
How would you reach
our own constitution clearly stipulates how you arrive at delegates. Every constituency in Uganda brings 2 delegates. And every district in Uganda brings 5 delegates. And those are joined by the National Executive Committee of the party. And they are also joined by the League of Persons with Disabilities. And that they are also joined by members of parliament. Actually, our own constitution talks about nearly a number of about 2,300. Now, for the first day on the 26th, we had 1,200 delegates.
As young as you are, to those quack members.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that, Norman. I'm coming to that, Norman, because you seem to have had come here with prejudices. Prejudices you hear, prejudices you hear from our haters.
Reasonable doubt
that you came with prejudices you hear from our haters. 1,200, Norman.
Phone call people. Hello, where are you?
They came,
come to Masaka.
They came from all parts of Uganda. You saw. You can play the footage. You saw from all parts of Uganda. Now those made so many ratifications. Those made resolutions. Those elected our leadership. On the next day, it was free for all. Free for all, and nearly we have been counting. It was about nearly 20,000 people were in Lassen Gardens in Masaka, because the event of the launch was an open launch. People came from Kampala, people came from Ankole, people came from Tolo, people came from all over the country, because the event was open. But that demonstrated the yearning that Uganda currently needs a third way. The people of Uganda are tired of these extremist tendencies from both sides of the aisle.
We shall have you.
And the yearning for a third way was clearly demonstrated in Masaka. The people say, no, I think DF is taking the right path, away from the NRM, away from what we see on the other side. The DF seems to be focusing on the issues that matter. We are an issue-based party. Okay. We are trying to get away from this politics of abuse, politics of saying these huge big words. You know, when I differ with the Norman, then I've only got to abuse him. I've only got to name call him. I've got to brand him a traitor. I've got to brand him a mole. I've got, people of Uganda are tired of that kind of approach. They want the DF approach, which raises issues which matter to them. Now, Uganda right now needs 3 issues, and I've told you before. Okay, 4 issues. The country needs reform. Reform of government, reform of parliament, reform of the judiciary, reform of public service, reform of nearly everything that we have now. 2, Uganda needs transition from Museveni to another leader. 3, Uganda needs healing and reconciliation. 4, Uganda needs equity in the distribution of opportunities. We are focusing on that. We are in the coming days going to publish our policy and governance agenda. our message is landing very well on the ground. And that is why you saw that demonstration and manifestation and powering of support in Masaka. No one was ferried.
Okay. In our remaining few minutes, how prepared are you in regards to fronting candidates in all spaces, but also for presidency? Because we have somewhere, we hear that you are looking forward to instead fronting Honorable Nsereko, and one was wondering, of all people.
That is far-fetched. It is again a big distortion. The president of the DF.
Are you fronting a presidential candidate?
The president of the DF is an automatic, for now, is an automatic presidential candidate of the DF.
Repeat it for our viewers. Do you want to say DF, Democratic Front,
will front a presidential candidate? That is our principle. But there can be an exception.
I knew. As a lawyer, I knew you wouldn't. I knew you would escape it and say,
I am not escaping.
Put an exception, because
the exception is this.
That's the escape route for lawyers.
The National Delegates Conference mandated the National Executive Committee to reach out.
If you evoke with the exception, where does it live?
It means sitting with all other seeking forces
and support
to reach a consensus agreement. And which are the forces that we need to reach out to? FDC, PFF, ANT, NUP, and all the others. In the spirit of arriving at a consensus candidate. But who is lacking?
Remove NUP. Amongst people you want to approach.
No, man.
Be honest. Just remove NUP. Kindly.
No, man.
Kindly remove NUP. Please. Kindly remove NUP. At heart, you know that you may not go to Kamocha.
We will reach out to everybody who wants to
maybe everybody, but we
will reach out to any willing force that wants to sit on the table for us to agree on a consensus candidate, because that's one of the problems that's actually bedeviling the opposition. We have never sat anywhere and arrived at a consensus candidate as the Kenyans have. Let me take you back to 2007, 2004. Moi had become a problem.
Yeah.
Moi was leading Kenya in the minority. Actually, Moi led Kenya in the last election with 27% of the vote. The rest of the opposition combined could share the remaining 73%. They were the majority until they sat down and said, look, let's sit down and get consensus. And you remember that at that time, Odinga was far more popular than Kibaki. But they said, yes, you are more popular. Yes, you are more vibrant.
For the purposes of the transition,
but we need
somebody can heal the nation.
Sober, somebody out of consensus, somebody who can heal all of us, somebody who all of us will not fear. Now, that is the magic bullet that saves Kenyans. It is still the magic bullet that Ugandans now need.
You have a bullet, you have no gun. So,
we have both.
Finally, are you coming to Makindye East, or you are fearing the ground?
I had actually, I never had intentions, but the people.
I knew. That's the challenge with most politicians.
Yeah, no.
People have. You saw the president the other time saying, literally, he was asked.
Let's go to my office and you see the number of letters people have written to me.
You can still have the same people asking them to write you letters,
requesting me to come and stand
and save them,
and actually not save them, but represent them better, give them a better voice, give them a louder voice on a national scene and in parliament.
In our 1 minute close, what's your plan if you lose as DF, which is likely anyway? Just too many. What's your plan?
But in democracy is not like a war. We are not fighting an armed war where you've got to win and the other side has got to lose. In democracy, you either win or you lose.
So you're prepared for the loss in the event of a loss?
In a democracy, you must be prepared for that. We are not pursuing an armed struggle. Had we been pursuing an armed struggle, our position is one: we either win or they do it or they lose.
Finally, in the event that you have lost, and the big man comes with an NRM political fishing net and tries to fish you, would you be trapped in that net to become a minister or something?
My own conviction is that we shall be able to win. We are going to win substantially. even in the face of loss of a presidential election, we shall still be around as we have always been. We have been around since 2001. We lost that election. We lost the election in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2021, and we are still sound, up and running. Okay. We will still get to the next course at the conclusion of the next election.
My prayer finally, and so should be yours, is that you also don't practice the same exodus later alone, and then we interview you, say, but you see also DF there were issues. Because once a political nomad, who knows, we hope this is that you have started, you will irrigate it to the latter.
We are here, Norman, but you know, parties are like that vehicle which brought you, that van which brought you.
Anytime, if it gets
now, if that van gets stuck right there where you parked it, what would you do?
If it's yours, you stay, you fix the van. Viewers, my name is Norman Tumuhimbise. It's been a great opportunity to have Honorable Mike Mabikke. Say your closing remarks, and then we shall leave.
Thank you very much, Norman. Thank you very much, Digi Talk. I want to assure the people of Uganda that we are doing everything to ensure that we return on the right track to deliver the change that you badly need. Ignore haters, ignore prejudices, ignore most of these subversions that some people are trying to introduce. We are steady, we are focused, and we will deliver for the people of Uganda. The expectation that they do so.
Our viewers, it is just months from now. I pray hard to God that we reach February when we are both alive. We will get to him and ask him to account for all these good words and the good agenda as he puts it. I remain no one will be here thanking me again. Okay, I remain Norman Tumuhimbise. Find us at Digitalk TV and of course YouTube channel, The Alternative Uganda, and Facebook page, The Alternative Uganda. Comment in the event of any questions and unanswered questions, of course, as of today's interview. I will definitely forward them back to him and or invite him in our studios this time around. Who knows? Norman signs out. Be blessed.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.